Week 3 of the NFL season here on TYTSports. J.R. Jackson, Steve-O, and that other guy. So, out of anything, is Brian Hoyer the best quarterback in the NFL so far? I mean, that's at least what it seems like.
Turk of the week.
Oh, already? Off the bat, Turk of the week?
Turk of the week.
So he had 3 interceptions, but he also had 3 touchdowns. Obviously, the Browns winning overshadows any of the interceptions that he threw.
He looked terrible at some points, just so we all...
At which points?
The points where he threw the 3 interceptions. I mean, there were look, it's not. First of all, a lot of things are interesting about this. One, the presumption, the Browns were 3-point underdogs to the Vikings when the week began, 3 or 3.5. And then the Trent Richardson trade happens. And all of a sudden it goes to 6.5, 7 in some places. Like the loss of a B running back at this point. It's not like Trent Richardson changed games, right? He might be a great player down the road, but like the loss of your starting running back somehow meant that the Browns would no longer be able to field a football team, and the Vikings were going to win 59-0 because the Browns were phoning it in. Hey, they put in backup running backs, and they got their star receiver back. They got Josh Gordon back, who probably would have helped Brandon Weeden as much as he helped Brian Hoyer.
And he had 19 targets yesterday.
The defense basically was pretty good last year, although the Vikings actually moved the ball. Christian Ponder moved the ball pretty effectively. So I just thought it was crazy, this notion that the Browns were all of a sudden destined to 1-15 because they lost Trent Richardson. Well, no, it's crazy talk.
I think it's always in the back of people's heads. It's a product of your history. And we think about the Browns, how much they've sucked over the years, and when they get close and how they've messed up somehow in the end, then you think, oh, they got rid of Trent Richardson. Everyone remembers how great he was in college. And you go, well, that's a bad move. There's another franchise bad move. They're going to continue to suck. And who is Brian Hoyer? Over, done. You start thinking about history, and you bring up those old stats, which I always hate when people say, this team, so-and-so team, hasn't beat this team since 1972. And I was like, well, who was in 1972 is not playing right now? I mean, so who cares? Like, all those years, it has nothing to do with what happened in 1972, but we still think about it that way.
So if guys throw out the statistic that the Lions have never beat the Redskins in D.C., you throw that out the window.
I throw it out. It's a different team every year.
Yeah.
It's a different team every year.
It's just an interesting note of fact that you're like, oh, that's interesting. But that has absolutely no bearing on whether they're going to win this game.
Yeah, there's no kryptonite on the field.
Yeah.
I think, is it FedEx Field, Ben?
FedEx Field.
There's no kryptonite on that field that only affects the Lions. It's like those kind of stats.
I'll tell you where there is a kryptonite. Wrigley Field on the Cubs. That's another argument for another day.
It's worth mentioning the Lions are 0-21 in Washington because it's occasionally you run into these statistics that tell you, because those teams don't play every year. They certainly don't play in Washington every year. And it's a little reminder that, my God, the Lions have been terrible for a very long time.
What's interesting is this. So, the internet was ablaze this past week with criticism for the Browns and saying, they're
and
phoning.
We had that
we
criticism
said
as
the same
well.
thing, and we said, the signal is that they're phoning it in. They got rid of their star running back. They're not even starting their second string quarterback. They're going with a third string quarterback, and it's a bad signal to the rest of the team that the management doesn't care. Why should the players care?
And you said Dan Wetzel wrote that piece as well.
Yeah.
On Yahoo.
Now, what's interesting is, giant kudos to the Cleveland Browns players, the management, the coaching, everyone, because I think
Norv Turner.
Yeah, no, I think what they probably said in the locker room, they probably said, "Look, we traded Trent away because we believe in you guys. No one else believes in us. Look at all this stuff that's in the news. We went from being 3-point underdogs to 7-point underdogs, but we're gonna go out there and play some good football and kick ass." And I feel like they have, in some ways, been released of this pressure to win. They're like, well, no one thinks we're going to win. We're going to just go out there and sling the ball back and forth. And they scored 31 points, right? Is that what they scored? 31 points.
31-27.
Yeah, and they scored, 16 total the 2 weeks combined?
Yeah, that's right.
So they almost doubled the output of the first 2 games, and they did it with Brian Hoyer. They got Josh Gordon back, which is huge.
10 catches for 146
yards.
Yeah, he had a huge day.
And they had Cameron, and they just played good ball.
And pre-Brian Hoyer, they had 1 touchdown in 2 games.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, is the Vikings are actually a horrendous team.
Yeah, they are bad. They're bad at football.
It's not being discussed enough how bad they are.
What I don't understand is, I'm so smart, how can I not win more money? Like it's crazy. And the idea is, it's absurd.
Ridiculous.
There's not a running back in the league that's worth 4 points on a spread, except maybe Adrian Peterson. Because you imagine the Vikings without Peterson and the inability to run and forcing Ponder to throw would be tantamount to just that game is over. But it's crazy. Trent Richardson had no impact on Cleveland. None, essentially, in a year and 2 games. So his loss, and they signed Willis McGahee to replace him, and he had 8 carries for 9 yards.
I was gonna say, you believe in Chris Ogabanaya, and Bobby Rainey, and Willis McGahee, the three-headed monster.
They had one 34-yard run. But basically they just threw the ball. They did not run the ball effectively at all yesterday.
So it seems like you're all in agreement that the Trent Richardson deal was a good trade for Cleveland?
We don't have any idea whether it's a good trade. We won't know until we know how Trent Richardson does in Indianapolis, until what the most important thing is what the Browns do with that pick and how that player turns out. What I respect from the Browns is a recognition of, especially in the league now, that having your franchise player be a running back might not be the way to go.